Good evening, everyone. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight for the second annual Zoom accessibility training. This is specifically designed for use with Zoom. However, many of the same principles apply, but of course in different in different capacities with different platforms. But tonight we're going to be focusing strictly on Zoom. My name is Brandon Heinrich. I'm one of the co-coordinators of the Downstate New York Adapt Accessibility Working Group. It is a joy for me to have all of you here tonight. We're going to just go over a couple of housekeeping rules before we begin, and then we'll get straight into it. We have a great training for all of you this evening with a lot of interesting things to cover. For those of you who are here, please remain muted at all times until it is time to ask questions, which we hope you will ask plenty of, because we know we have a great training for you and great topics to cover. So please feel free to ask as many questions as you want. But for those who are not familiar with how to mute and unmute, for those of you using JAWS, press Alt A to mute and unmute. It'll toggle it between muted and unmuted. If you are on a Mac computer, you would do Option A to toggle. To raise your hand to ask a question, it'd be Alt Y with JAWS, Option Y with the Mac. For voiceover users, you would go down to the bottom to the More section and then click Raise Hand, and then you can go to the bottom and click. You can click the mute button to unmute. For those on the phone, *9 will raise or lower your hand. *6 will mute and unmute. So let's talk about the presentation itself before we get into it. This is an interactive presentation. Now, what does that mean? That means that we will be recording the presentation and streaming it on Facebook so that people who are watching later, who need to watch later, will be able to do so. And we will also be, when we share the screen, you will hear my screen reader feedback, so that for those of you on the phone and for those of you who are visually impaired listening to this presentation, you will know how to do it from a visually impaired standpoint as well. So welcome to our new arrivals. We want to get started right away with this presentation. I'm going to cover several topics tonight. We're going to cover the basic start of a Zoom meeting. How do we start a Zoom meeting, and how do we start it to make it accessible right from the beginning? We're going to talk about making it accessible for somebody who is visually impaired. We're going to talk about making it accessible for somebody with a hearing impairment. And we're also going to focus on something that most people don't really think about, and that's people with the need for using dictation software to use their computers. And we'll get to that in a few moments because there's a reason why I'm going to cover that tonight. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to also share sound so that people can hear.
Screen share.
Can everybody hear and see the screen?
Meeting control.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, so we're on the Zoom window now. The main meeting Zoom window. You can see all the controls there. Now, the first item that I'd like to talk about is doing this for a visually impaired person. What is something that most people don't think about when they start a meeting with somebody who is visually impaired? What does that person look like? Some people go, oh, I don't want to hear what somebody looks like. Just get to the point. But some people do want to know what that is, what the person looks like. So, for example, I didn't do it on purpose because I wanted to do it now. I'll give a visual description of myself. I'm a white male, black hair, blue eyes. I have a desk sitting in front of me and an open window right now to let a little bit of the wind and the breeze in because I needed some fresh air in here. And there's a coffee cup sitting next to me. But just basic background like that is very helpful for somebody who can't see.
Left the waiting room for this meeting.
Now you hear JAWS talking there. JAWS is giving me audible feedback as to what's going on in the Zoom. That's the same kind of thing that you expect somebody to do when you can't see. So, for example, I'm sharing my screen right now. What if you don't see that screen, and what if you don't have that audible feedback that I'm getting from JAWS right now? What are you going to do? Well, the best thing to do is to accessibly share your screen, read out the slides that you're showing, or read out whatever it is that you're showing. I can think of a prime example of this. Today is a year since I was trained for my job, and the person who was training me unfortunately did not know I was blind. And thank goodness for one of the people in this room pointing it out. He's blind. So she wouldn't have known that, and she would have gone on without reading what she needed to read. And now, of course, they're all conscious of it, and they just do what they have to do. But for example, you're showing a PowerPoint presentation. I can't see the slides because JAWS doesn't read the slides on the screen. So a person is going to have to audibly read the slides. For example, if you're showing a picture, you need to describe that picture so that somebody who is visually impaired can see that picture or try to picture that picture in their minds. Many times I'll go on a Zoom and they're showing, slides, and they just keep going next slide, but they don't say what is in the slide, if that makes any sense to everybody. There are also other little things. If you happen to have a furry little intruder that comes in, describe that intruder. Sometimes, you'll go on a Zoom meeting for work or whatever, and I have my cat just walked into the room. I can't see the cat. Might be a good idea to tell the person what the cat looks like. For example, if my dog were to walk in, I'd say she's a white little bucket of crazy with, the ears and to describing her, what she looks like, so that people can understand, what it is that you're seeing or what it is that everybody else is seeing, because predominantly you'll go into a meeting with maybe one or two blind people and the rest of you are sighted. So we'll just go with that. Now we're going to go on to a different topic, which has become a bit of a hot topic lately because of course, until Zoom did something about it, it wasn't there. Many of you remember that, or when many of you will watch TV, for example, and you'll see closed captioning. In fact, if you're looking at your Zoom right now and you have it enabled, you can see the closed captioning showing right now because, for accessibility reasons, we have it on. Closed captioning is a very critical thing that we put on by default so that we know that our meetings are accessible, but not many places know that the closed captioning even exists. Some people will say, oh, well, we don't know how to turn it on. I'm about to show you. So I'm going to actually open my browser start because this is one of these features that needs to be enabled to start out because it's not enabled by default, which I must say is kind of silly. They should have it enabled and then you can change it afterward. So you're on the Zoom page. For those of you using JAWS, you can use the B key, the button navigation to go to the button. You want to go to the navigation button, expand that button by pressing the space bar. I'm going to search for my account.
My account. Menu, my account. Workspaces reimagined. Alert when you join meetings and webinars hosted on Zoom.
And now I'm in my account page. The fastest way to do this is to find the little menu.
Waiting room. Profile collapsed. Garland.
It'll say profile collapsed.
Side menu button collapsed.
Side menu button collapsed. That's what I want. I want the side menu. This is a little inconvenient because they hid it in the corner
Garland,
here.
Side.
So you press the side button, you open that, and then you arrow down or you scroll down, whatever you choose to do.
Profile meetings menu.
You find the meetings menu. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You go to the settings menu.
Web phone menu. Personal whiteboards. New recordings. Settings menu.
Press enter on that or click it.
Settings menu. Loading.
Are you showing
alert
this
alert
on the
alert when
screen?
size
Oh,
S
there it is,
minimize
okay.
N maximize leaving
There we
alert
go.
alert
There it is. Thank
meeting
you.
Would have been nice for you to tell me that a few minutes
Learn
ago
more.
there, Cap.
I was going
Sorry.
to tell you in a
Support
minute,
version.
Brandon.
close
Sorry.
waiting room toggle
Ay, ay,
virtual
ay,
PC
all right.
disable
Okay, so we are in the settings section now, and obviously we're looking for closed captioning. So the easiest way to do that is
Setting
to
page head security.
press the H key for those of us using screen readers, or
Required
arrow
all
down.
waiting room heading level for meeting passcode.
There's many
heading.
options here.
Personal meeting ID PM require passcode, embed passcode and invite only, authenticate, sign into Zoom if waiting room
I'm
is
just going through them because
if waiting room is not block users in
we're
specific.
looking for one specific thing.
Only authenticate, approve or block entry, schedule meeting heading
I
left.
mean, if you look at this page, there's a ton of things
Participants
here.
video audio type head, allow participant, enable personal meeting, use personal meeting ID, add watermark heading level, mute all participants when they join upcoming meeting, remind meeting templates heading and meeting basic heading level, require encrypt.
See how they hide it?
Meeting chat heading level, new meeting chat experience, meeting chat direct mess, meeting chat auto save, sound notification when play sound for heading level.
Oh, this is another setting that actually is good for visually impaired people. Let me stop here. The sound notifications.
Sound notification when some.
Most of these settings are actually not on by default. They are turned on this account by default so that if I'm using my computer and I don't hear Jaws talking, I at least know somebody's entered the room. I can go back to the meeting and see who entered, but at least I know somebody came in. So I can say, oh, okay, somebody's here. Who was it? If I didn't hear it because Jaws didn't tell me because I'm using it,
Play sound.
not paying attention. And it gives you different options.
Group start plays everyone radio button.
It says
sound
notifications
when
someone joins or leaves.
Modified. Reset but heading
And
level.
that's a modified setting.
When someone
Because I changed
send
that.
files via feedback display, echo host meeting polls, meeting serve, always show me screen share, disabled that disables annotation whiteboard, remote can slide can non-verbal meeting reactions heading level, allow removed part, show invitee, allow users, allow part, allow hoster, hide participant profile and meeting advance, report the Zoom breakout room, remotes of manual automated full manual captions.
You see? They changed it on me.
Remotes. Manual captions.
They must have changed that right before this meeting. All right, there's several options.
Remote manual captions.
There's manual captions.
Allow host to type closed captions or assign a participant third-party service to add closed captions. Manual captions toggle button pressed.
That's turned on. You should turn all these settings on, by the way. Manual caption.
Modified.
That's modified. And again, that's just if you have a third-party service that you say, oh, Zoom's closed captioning is horrible, it doesn't work, I'm going to pay a third-party person, or I'm going to sit there and type it myself. Who would want to do that?
Reset button. Allow host to type or assign a participant to type, checkbox check.
You can also assign a participant to type if you choose to.
Allow host to type or assign a participant to type. Allow use of caption API token to integrate with third-party closed captioning services, checkbox checked.
You have to turn that on.
Allow use of caption API token to integrate with heading level 4 automated captions.
Automated captions. This is what we're really looking for.
Allow users to enable automated captions in these languages and meetings. Support version for automated captions button collapsed. Automated captions toggle button pressed.
Yes.
Modified. Reset button. Chinese simplify add cap heading level 4 full transcript. Allow
full
viewing.
transcript.
Allow viewing a full transcript in the meeting side panel.
Allow viewing a full transcript. If this is not turned on, it's useless because if you say show caption, which I'll get to in a second, it's not going to show any caption and people won't see the caption. This is what Zoom uses for their closed captioning, and it's pretty accurate. Some of you may have noticed it getting better as they've updated it. You know, people who have been around long enough, you really know, okay, this thing's been hanging around a little bit. It's gotten only better. It used to be kind of jarbled a little bit, but it's gotten better. So the full transcript option is turned on. All these settings can be turned on for those using a screen reader just by pressing enter or the space bar.
Modified.
Usually the space bar tends to work better.
Reset button. Heading level 4 save captions.
Save captions. So how many of you go to meetings and you absolutely need to know what's going on at the meeting, but you really just can't pay attention to everything? Well, this isn't just good for somebody who's hearing impaired. This is good for somebody who is, a busy person and has 3 or 4 different meetings on in one shot and needs to save the captions to go back and look at them later.
Allow participants to
this
save
is turned on.
Captions or transcripts. Save captions toggle button pressed.
Anytime it says pressed, it means it's turned
Heading
on.
level 4 language interpretation.
Language interpretation. Here's another interesting.
Only the host can turn full transcript on.
No, you can actually. I'll get to that in a second, Michelle. Thank you. Good point. You can actually, you can enable it so a participant, should you forget to turn it on, for example, they can go in, and Kathy does this to me all the time. She goes in and actually will go into the little show caption thing and actually press request. So if a person doesn't have it on, it will send them a little notification and say, request live transcripts to be enabled. You can hit enabled. And then sometimes I think a co-host can do it too, but I'm not exactly
Allow
sure.
host to assign part.
Go down
Or
and
during
take a
the meet
look.
language interpretation
Language
toggle button.
interpretation, this is obviously for, different languages to be
Heading
put in
level 4
here.
sign language interpretation.
Sign language interpretation.
Far end camera control.
Oh no. Okay, that's all the closed captioning settings. But again, these are important settings because how many of you run meetings and again, you're not fully accessible to somebody who unfortunately can't hear what you're trying to say, and you want to be extremely, integral for everybody. So that's what we're trying to do here. So the next animal of it all, I guess, is how you would look at it, is how do we turn it on when we're in a meeting? Because it doesn't automatically turn on, by the way.
Audio settings button drop down.
So we're gonna keep tabbing until we hear show captions. And I'm actually gonna turn it off. No, I'm not, because it may not turn back on.
Security open participant more options chat button. More options
we
for
can't
chat.
see it, Brandon. The
Press
screen.
alt context
Hang
menu.
on.
Leaving menus. JAWS menu. Polls button.
It won't let me.
Leaving menu. Meeting control. New share.
Now, can you see it?
No.
What is it?
No.
It won't let me.
Share up. Pause share.
All we see is the screen, the job. Okay, now we see a screen. Wait, that went away.
Went away.
Yeah, it was
Hang
there for a
on.
second.
System
now it's
maximize
gonna let me
X.
do it.
Leaving
Okay.
menus. Start search control F but meetings tab select.
Yeah, but it's not the
Desktop,
screen
full
I want you
meeting
to
control.
see.
Pause share.
Annotate.
No, you had it, and it like flashed on and off.
Okay, well, either way, you're going to just go to where it says show captions and then just press it and it will turn on. It used to be a little more difficult than that. It used to be you would go in there, you would press enable auto transcript. Now you just go and press it and it says it's on. So there's a button. It just says show transcript. If the settings are enabled. If the settings aren't enabled, you will not see those buttons show up. Right now you're seeing nothing because my screen doesn't want me to do anything with it.
Annotate. Remote
We see
control
the screen with it has blue balls on it. It's like what you had on the screen initially.
Leaving JAWS
Okay, now
meeting
we see
controls on
something.
top menu.
Meeting
Remote
controls just came and went.
closed. Collapse. Leaving menu.
Okay, now it's opened again. Window list.
Close button. Collaboration.
Yeah, I'm trying to see.
More button. Doctor.
It will not let me minimize or maximize.
Okay.
I don't know why. I apologize.
Stop.
But there's an option. If you keep going,
audio settings,
it literally says
more chat, more polls, new share up, pause, share, annotate, remote, closed, collaborate, more button, doctor bot, stop, share all desktop, expand screen share preview button, mute, current audio set, start video, more chat, more polls, new share up, pause, share, annotate, but remote, closed, collaboration options button drop, more button, doctor bottom button, more button drop.
It won't be showing now because it's
pause recording, alt P, doctor.
Either way, when the meeting just starts, you will find a button that says share option, or shall I say view full transcript, or view transcript, or view live captions. I'm sorry, view live captions. Now I'm flustered, I apologize. View live captions. When you click view live captions, it's a little deceiving for somebody who can't see because they've changed it where it just says closed captioning has been enabled. It used to be you would open that, you'd have to press the, enable auto transcription. Now it's just one little thing you press and it's on. So that's a handy thing, but it's also confusing.
Sam Broadcaster.
So I'm actually going to stop sharing for now because now we're going to talk about one last little thing that people don't realize. People who come into meetings with dictation. I'm not going to mention his name, but we do have one person who joins our meetings once in a while who uses it. And for those of you who are on the Zoom meeting who don't use the software, some of the things that you'll hear can be a little discouraging, such as the command go to sleep. That person is not telling you to go to sleep, it's telling the software to go to sleep. But again, these are things just to be aware of, is that you're going to have people with different disabilities coming on to these meetings who may have different needs and different abilities. So you want to try and be cognizant of all of those things. Now, at this point, I probably could take questions because we actually were able to cover everything pretty quickly, unless there's something else that people might want to know about. But if you have questions, just raise your hand and somebody will call on you.
Any questions? Don't be shy.
We don't bite.
Put my question in the chat.
Oh, you're gonna put it in the chat? Okay. Do you
Oh
want
yeah,
me
that let me just make one statement. If you're using the chat and somebody's using a screen reader, it can become very audible and very auditory for that person because all the screen reader is doing is giving audible feedback of everything put into the chat. So if somebody's trying to listen to, the meeting itself and they hear their screen reader blabbing, that can be very difficult. So, Yasmin put in the chat, what level account is this? It's on all accounts now. It used to be on paid accounts. It is now on all levels. I think, personally, from what I've been told and what I've seen, the paid one is better, just kind of naturally, with terms of the closed captioning. In terms of the, general accessibility of it, that's across the board. I hope that answers your question, Yasmin.
Yes. What about the how to enable like the background?
Oh, the background. Okay. So, you'd go to your video settings on a computer anyway. You can choose virtual background. Again, it's not going to let me share the screen again. It's not going to let you see the screen, but you can go on the computer anyway. There's a button that's right after you tab from start or stop video. There's a button right after it that says video settings. You click that. There's options. There's select a camera, blur my background, choose virtual background, and then you can select a file or select a background. Oh, interesting. I've never played with this. Interesting. Okay, so I'd have to play with that. I've never used that. I always just either use video or... Oh, yeah, add image or video. Annalisa has her hand up.
Yeah, hi, and thank you. I just had a quick question about I have automatic captioning for my Zoom meetings for those who are hearing impaired, and it works pretty well. But I also have some folks in my group that have low vision and hearing impaired issues. So I was asked to find out if there was a way to increase the size of the text that's coming out, and I can't seem to find a way to do that. Does Zoom do that?
Does anybody on the sighted end of things know that? Because I actually don't know about that. It sounds like a thing where they'd have to make their magnification level a little bigger on whatever magnifying program they're using. If that's what they're using, or if it's just standard computer, then I don't know.
Yeah, I guess they would have to magnify, because I've looked around on Zoom and I can't find a way to.
I
I
mean, you
can't find a
figure
setting in there to increase
I
the
just
text.
showed the whole page, and I didn't see anything on that page. So
Yeah, bummer. Okay, was worth asking though.
Here's the way.
Thank you anyway.
what was that, Marisol?
Here's the way to make it bigger.
Oh, can you put it in the chat?
Yeah, I cannot share my screen.
Oh, you should be able to.
Okay. Yeah.
Marisol to the rescue, everybody.
Oh my god.
I actually thought we'd have a little bit more to talk about, but I really do have. I have a.
Oh, we can see it. Nice. Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah. You gotta go to you gotta go to closed caption on the bottom of the screen,
Okay.
and you gotta select the subtitle, and then you can make it bigger.
Ah.
Excellent. Thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Wow! Thank you, Marisol. Yay!
Woo.
Now, why
And
didn't
that's
I know
what-
that? I'm supposed to be the one doing the training. Why didn't I know that?
Hey, we learn from each other. And what about that? I mean, is that like when you're setting up the Zoom, you can do that, or you do that? Can you do it during a Zoom, or what?
You can do it during the Zoom.
You can do it during the Zoom.
Yeah.
Now, can I, as a participant, do it, or only
Yeah.
the?
Yeah,
I
you
can do
can
it
do
too?
it. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, she's not even a host right now, so actually she's
Oh.
doing something that a host doesn't have to do, obviously.
Yep.
So what do you do?
Wow.
What do you click on below? That's what I'm curious.
You gotta click CC.
Security?
Caption.
No, we're on the captioning portion. It might be different on hers because she has a Mac, Marisol.
Yeah, I got a Mac. Sorry,
Uh,
guys.
I'm
I
looking
have
on my PC. I see it.
You
So
see it?
yeah, so when
Okay.
it's inside just, your desktop application, you click
Yeah.
on the little cog wheel, which is the settings, go to accessibility, and then close caption. So it's on the individual side. They can adjust the font size to something as small as 14 point all the way up to 32 points. So that's excellent. So now I know what to do. Thank you so
Hey,
much.
okay, great.
welcome.
Any other questions?
Yeah. The cogwheel? Because I don't see a cogwheel on mine.
If you go to the bottom of your screen
I
where your
see
mine's
view.
on the bottom, the menu,
Yeah.
show captions, and click on that and go to caption settings. Can you find that?
Okay, hold on. Caption
no.
settings.
Down at the bottom, it
I
says
see
show
subtitle
caption.
settings, and I see view full transcript and speaking language.
It's next to like, where it says how participants chat, share screen, record, show captions.
Yeah.
Do you see show captions?
Yes, I do.
Okay, if you click on that,
Okay.
and then it gives you speaking language, full view,
Yeah.
and then caption settings. Click on caption settings.
Oh, I have one that says subtitle settings, but okay, now I see it. And now you can make it. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that's just a shorter way to get to what the other lovely
Oh,
lady was
neat.
saying.
Oh,
There you
thank
go.
you.
See
Thank
that?
you both. Thank you,
We're all
everybody.
helping each other as opposed to me just doing all the work. See?
Yeah, that's why we're
Absolutely.
a team.
Oh
Oh,
my
Yasmin has
goodness.
another question.
Go ahead, Yasmin.
Thank you, Michelle.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so if you want to do like a webinar, is it much different, the controls? Or I know as far as like, sharing the screen. Oh, sorry.
You know, Yasmin, I've never done a webinar in my whole life. I don't
Okay.
know what. I'm pretty sure there's some similarity to it. I don't think that. I mean, because I know the webinar settings. I mean, the webinars are for a blind person. They're torture because you can't see who's on there. You gotta do different things for the chat. There's so many different little things that are just complicated for the webinar. In fact, I'm gonna try a webinar and see what the difference is. I mean, I've attended webinars. I've never hosted them though. So that's a difference right there. I've never hosted one, so I couldn't give you the hosting perspective, but there are options for closed captioning. But then again, I went to webinars where closed captioning didn't exist, Suffolk County.
I have a
But
question.
and also, oh, go ahead, Kathy.
Sorry. about that thing you just said about webinars really like a killer for people who are blind and that. Can you just elaborate on that?
The
Because I
only
know,
reason why they're killer is because
yeah.
the controls are a little different. So, like my first time going on a webinar, Marilyn was there with me too, and the chat is different because you actually have to, you know, type in the chat, or you have to push the raise hand in order to even be allowed to be muted, me unmuted to ask a question. So it's those are like the little differences there. There's a little, the window looks different. In other words, so for example, what my Zoom window looks like now, where I'm seeing all the participants and all that stuff, the participants don't exist. You can't see them. That's what the webinar is designed to do. It's designed to hide the participant and make it more interactive for people. But it's just if you've never gone on one, like I hadn't at the time, it can be difficult. So I will say that Zoom for a screen reader user is extremely accessible, and they've only made it better. I think throughout the pandemic, we've all gotten used to it. We've had no choice. Like, for example, comparing Zoom to, let's say, Teams is 10 times more accessible than Teams Zoom is. So I think there's, a lot of differences. That's why I think Zoom is the most popular. Really, I do believe that. So, I think that I think the main difference probably is when I was on the webinar thing, it didn't. You obviously there's no mute button. You have to be acknowledged, and then they unmute you. That's what the difference is between a webinar and a regular Zoom like this, just a meeting where you have free reign to unmute or mute or whatever you want to do. In this case, you really don't have that ability because you have to be. They do all the work. It's panelists, and the panelists have to do all the unmuting and the muting. It's just basically, and it's more money on Zoom too. It's not worth it to even set it up because we don't really use it. I don't really use it. I use it very, very rarely. I would use that very rarely if I did, so it's just not worth it.
I'm just thinking of, I was comparing like the different prices between the free and the basic and the next level up. And I know the more you go up, the more features that you have. And I'm just
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, I'm thinking because I have access to like a shared one that the organization, one of the organizations that I belong to, that I have access to their Zoom thing. And I see a lot of the settings, I don't change any of those things, but I probably think that maybe some things that you mentioned tonight should be turned on when we do have our Zoom meetings, when we use that account. So
Mm-hmm. And some of the settings you actually can, like the sound settings and stuff, you can enable them meeting by meeting. But why would you want to do that? You have to enable it, and then I remember when we first started Downstate New York Adapt, we were using a different Zoom, and Kathy made me co-host one day because she asked for somebody to co-host while she did whatever she did. She had to look at a thing on her screen or something for one of the voting meetings, and I thought to myself, wait a minute, I'm gonna change one of these little settings because this sound, we had a waiting room at the time, and I couldn't hear when somebody came into the waiting room, so I was like, wait a minute, just excuse me for a second. I'm just going to change this little setting. And then, of course, when I left, when I didn't realize that the setting doesn't stay at the time. So when we left the meeting, it made the setting go back to the way it was. So nobody would have known I did it. But it was annoying to me because you got no sound feedback. You didn't know people were in the waiting room, and I was trying to do two things at once, and I didn't hear Jaws say, "Hey, somebody's in the waiting room." But the little noise that it makes is very handy because it tells me somebody's in the waiting room, or if the waiting room isn't enabled, it will tell me, "Hey, somebody's in here. You can go look who it is if you want, or just say hello, whoever you are, and keep moving." But Kathy's hand is up again.
Yeah. I know this would be just your opinion, but can you give us like down and dirty of which, like you said, Zoom is really good and Teams is difficult. So I mean, I think there's Zoom, there's Teams, there's Google something.
It's Google
I
Meets.
mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So how would you like rate them? Like, is Zoom the best of
I think Zoom
the?
is the best.
Okay.
My opinion. Anybody else want to share theirs? But my opinion
Yeah, I
is Zoom is
appreciate
the
that.
best.
If everybody could share whatever they think. Any takers? Anybody have any thoughts? I mean, I like Zoom because I feel like I'm in the room with you, and I like this as opposed to like those webinars, because in those webinars, I feel they're very controlled and you're not like hanging out with the group and being able to talk and,
Exactly. You
like
see?
real time interact. I mean, they will like, you raise your hand and then they gotta, give you the ability to talk. While this, you can like chat, like you can just turn yourself on and off and chat with your friends.
Right. And I think that was what I was having a problem with the first webinar I'd ever gone on, because I wasn't used to somebody doing all that for me. I was used to me doing that myself. So, and then, trying to ask a question, I was trying to find the button. Where do I go to put in a question or to even raise your hand to ask a question? And somebody ended up typing in the chat, Brandon Heinrich would like to say something. Because it was confusing. It's like, are you going to acknowledge the fact that I'm raising my hand here, or did I raise my hand? Did I not? Do I look like a fool? What
Yeah,
happened?
I
And
find that significant what you all said just now, because with the New York City Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities, they started out with the Zoom format like this, and now they do webinars. And I'm just wondering why they went to a more, it seems that what you're telling me, it's a more difficult
well, that
format.
was 2 years ago. To be honest with you, that was two
They
years
moved,
ago. They've obviously changed a few things. Obviously, in the last few days, they've
right?
changed a few things with Zoom here that I'm learning new things as I go. But I don't know what a webinar looks like now as opposed to 2 years ago, but you bring up a
Okay.
good point. Why would they be doing a webinar when they could be just having a simple format? I guess there must be a reason that only they know.
Yeah. The reason
What
But
about
we
the
don't know.
this is Yasmin again. What about like the breakout rooms? Is that like something different, or they don't offer that?
oh, that's so breakout rooms are so much fun. And Michelle, no, if Michelle is still here, she probably remembers my first experience with a breakout room. I breakout
I'm still
rooms,
here. Yes.
yeah. My first experience with breakout rooms was at work, because we were in a breakout room situation, and I didn't see the little invitation pop up on the screen. Hey, you got to go into this breakout room. So I'm sitting there listening to the wrong presentation, and I get a text from the director going, can you join the breakout room? And luckily I opened the text, because if I didn't open the text, I wouldn't have seen it. But you got to watch that the invitation shows up. If it's an assigned breakout room, there's two different types. There's the type of breakout room where you're automatically assigned to a breakout room, or then they have a nice list of breakout rooms that you can go into. My favorite now is probably the one where they throw you into one, because you'll get an invitation because the Jaws didn't tell me that there was a thing on the screen. I actually had to go minimize the window and then find it hiding in the corner of the screen somewhere. That's how I found it. Now all of a sudden they've decided they want to pop up when I don't need them. They pop up and let me do it. But breakout rooms are interesting too, because when you go into the breakout room, if you don't get out of it enough time, if they close the breakout room, you get thrown back and you're trying to go into it, and by the time you've got thrown out, it's already back in the main room, and you're trying to do, and I almost left the one room that I was supposed to be in. So it happens. You just don't realize, oops, I did the wrong thing. But it's as you get used to it, as like everything else, you get used to it, and now you know, hey, I have to do this, I have to do that in order to do it. But breakout rooms are easy once you get
But
used to them.
only the host can. You have to be a host to be able
Yes, you have to be a
to.
host to do that. You have to be a
Okay.
host. You can't even be a co-host. You have to be a host.
And breakout rooms,
Oh.
for you have to have a paid account, or is that in the free
I
account?
believe, I'm not sure, but I believe you do.
Okay, and then with breakout rooms, okay, when they list it on the screen,
Hmm.
does your screen reader read that?
Yes, it
Okay,
does. you have to go to the breakout rooms. You have to go tab around to find breakout rooms and then click it, and then it shows you all the breakout rooms that you can enter. But yes,
Okay.
it does do that.
So would
Whereas
that be helpful, like, when we're having a meeting and we have, like, we're gonna have breakout rooms, should we, like, say that, orally so that people know that and they don't have to then, like, go,
it's a
I guess
handy
they still
thing
have
to
to go,
do.
yeah.
Some people know to do it, but for those who are new to it, yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, and I wanted to make another point. See, I'm forgetting things because I was getting flustered because you guys couldn't see my screen. When you have a meeting like this, what I just did in the beginning, which was when I did the housekeeping stuff, and I told you how to navigate the screen and how to mute, unmute, all that, might not be such a bad idea if a person wants that information. When you all get the nice email from downstate New York in big letters, thank you for registering and attending, you'll have the whole list of commands in there. If you want to give that out to people, have that referenced for if somebody with, like, let's say JAWS, says, I don't know how to do that. Well, you do this. So you'll have that whole list in front of you that you can actually reference that list and go, oh, okay.
Here's another quick question with the breakout rooms. When it's doing the countdown, and should we, like, let people know at the beginning of a meeting when you're gonna use breakout rooms that, like, hey, when you go in the breakout room and you're coming back, don't worry, you don't have to fuss with anything. It will bring you
Yeah, don't
automatically
touch
back
it. It'll
into the
bring, yeah.
meeting.
If they're new at it, especially, I
Yeah.
would do that. Like, don't touch your
Well, you don't
screen.
know. So at a, meeting, you just mention that. So if you do get somebody new, they,
Yeah, don't touch that dial. You'll be brought back on your own. You don't have to. That was, I didn't know all these things.
right.
Maybe I should have played with that before I actually needed to use it, right? That would have been really helpful.
Nah.
But hey, I learned as I went. It was embarrassing, but I learned.
Right, right. No, but that's good to know, like, to tell people ahead of time that don't panic, just sit there. But when it comes, when you were, like, in a breakout, say this was a breakout room, and
Hmm.
now it's starting to go down to, like, last seconds, I believe, if I remember right, you see something, people, have
Yeah,
seen,
Jaws will at least
your
tell
jaws
you.
tell you that?
Yeah,
Okay.
Jaws will. I don't know about voiceover. I've never done it on my
Um,
phone.
okay.
I'm a little afraid to,
All
honestly.
right, so we should at least mention that to people, that somebody should to let everybody else in that breakout
Yeah,
room
I
know that
think,
you
like,
got
for
to do that.
example, the last coalition meeting, I'll give an example. I think somebody put in the chat a few more minutes, then come in. That's kind of handy
Okay.
to do. Whoever did
Okay,
that,
good.
I'd like to thank them for doing it because that was very handy. At least I knew, okay, you got a few minutes. If you're not looking at the clock, too. Like, for example, let's say
Right.
you give 15 minutes in a breakout room, for example,
Mhm.
for something. Uh, you basically have, the 15 minutes. If you're not looking at a clock, somebody can send a chat message to the breakout room, which I didn't know you could do until somebody did it again. And then it'll say, a few minutes coming in or whatever. My personal
Oh,
thought was the person who was giving the presentation when I was sitting there listening to this person for no real need should have said, what the heck are you doing here? But they
yeah,
didn't.
good to know.
So it's a learning experience. But again, I'm learning these things so I can spread it all to you because for those who have never used these things, they're handy. They're a handy thing to have, and especially for those who use it constantly with disabled people of any kind, of any type. It's a good thing to have. I will say this. I have been using Zoom now since the beginning of the pandemic for various things. I've been using it for, I started out using it for my social club that I used to have for my college when I was in college. Then I started a social group. I was doing that on Saturdays for a while. Some of you were there, and I thank you for being there. And now sometimes I even just use it for basic, just if I want to meet with somebody quick to talk to them about something, I can just do it very quickly. Or now I've been using it for work, and that's an interesting when I don't use Teams, which I haven't used yet, but I'll get there. Yasmin, go ahead.
Can you talk about how to download the transcript? I know Kathy got on me about not knowing how to do that, so I want to know how
Oh,
to.
yes. Oh,
I need to know
yes.
how to do that.
You must know how to do these things, don't you? Okay, so let me just see because they've changed this window. Um, They changed this window. Oh, see, they put support in a different spot too.
And can you do for chat also? How you can save that?
Yep. Well, the chat I know, because the chat's staring me in the face. You go to the chat window itself where you're looking at the chat, Yasmin. You'd have to be on a computer. I don't think you could do it on the phone itself. You'd have to be on. Oh, it's selecting her for some reason. Okay. So you have to be on a computer that I know of. And for example, on a Windows PC, when you go to the chat window, you know where you see all the chat window pop up where all the messages are?
Yes.
So you're going to shift tab up and you're going to find. I lied. You're going to tab. You're going to go down. They changed this again. And it says more options for chat. Click that. Right in front of you, save chat.
Okay, so it seems that so you really can't do much, like, because I'm on the iPad, so there really isn't.
There's nowhere, I don't think, there's nowhere you can save the chat to on an iPad, because I think it goes into your files on your iPad, and then you'd have to find it on a computer. That's a good point. I'm gonna have to take a look at that, Yasmin. I will get back to you on the iPad portion of it.
Okay.
Because I have
I go,
my iPhone, but not an iPad yet.
And
Yeah,
can
I
you
go
just
back and
check
forth
out also
between.
how to do it on a smartphone, whether it be,
Yeah,
because
that.
maybe
I was just thinking that
I don't
because
know.
the iPhone, like for example, I have an iPhone and I have never done it on there because I'm a little, like I said, I have really no need to do it. But I usually, if I save a chat, I do it on a computer. Now, the host again has to have enabled this setting. If the host didn't enable that setting, you're not saving any chat. So
Yeah.
that's a setting in that same
Oh,
settings page, Yasmin, that you'd go in and there's a little chat option thing where you can look on the chat settings. And if it says allow participants probably to save chat, I would imagine it would say something like you just press that on and turn it on and then it'll select itself and then it'll allow you to say a lot of these settings. I don't know why they're not common sense turned on by default, but I guess different meeting hosts have different preferences, so they just leave them alone and hope you know how to figure it out yourself.
Or maybe that's something we could fight for, that they make it a default so that we don't have to go around teaching everybody how to do it to start. And then if they want to turn it off, they can turn it off, because
I guess that's a good thing to look into, yeah.
I think that could be one of our missions.
No, I think the
is to
most
figure out how to do
important
that.
setting to leave on would be the closed captioning would be the default. That should be a
Yeah,
default setting.
that
I
should
think that's
definitely be
something I've been
default.
looking into
And
because
that you can save the transcript because it's great for note taking.
yes, it is. That's why I said if you're a busy person, I was hinting at you there, Kathy. If you're a busy person and you need to save that
Everybody is
chat,
busy. This is a busy group right here. Everybody's not
exactly. If you
busy.
need to save that chat for whatever reason, you can do that. And that's a handy little, or the transcript I should say, that's a handy little feature and a good idea actually for those who didn't think of this. Copy your chat, save your chat and send it out in an email to people.
Yeah.
Because that's what we've decided to start doing, which is actually a pretty handy thing. Adapt has started to, has done that pretty much, what, Kathy, since its inception, really.
The only thing you have to be careful of, if anybody's direct message you things, I don't send out the chat per se. I look through the chat and then I copy and paste it into another
Oh, she
document.
sent out a redacted version.
Yeah, I do, because
Oh, she's a lawyer.
sometimes
Remember,
people
she's
want
a
to
lawyer.
send a DM to you saying, "Hey, Kat, maybe you shouldn't talk so much."
Good to know, Kathy. Good to know.
Look, I be screenshotting it. I try to when it's a lot, especially when people are putting like their email addresses and contact information, and it's so fast. I just try to take a screenshot of it and then go back, and I'm just like, but I do have a little vision left where I'm able to see that, but I know it's not going to be able to be read. But if I can't get the transcript in time, then I kind of use that. But
and here's something else
You feel comfortable now? Yasmin, about how to save? Do you feel comfortable knowing how to save it? Or, I
Yes.
mean, if you don't, we can go over, later.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it.
Okay.
Anybody who's ever interested in having assistance, I would be happy to help. I'm not, I'm just giving you this training, but you know where I live.
And the idea is not, see what I know I did. I went on another group's meeting, the League of Women Voters in New York City, the chapters, and they were very, welcoming. And part of the welcoming procedure, I actually taught a couple of the people how to do it. Another day I set up a meeting with a person and showed her, and then she showed two friends who showed two friends. So now they have their meetings with the transcript, and everybody likes it because it's good for everybody to have a easy
Kathy,
copy.
you
So you
should
don't have
start
to take care.
charging.
It's not letter perfect, but at least can jog your memory on things. And so, I mean, we shouldn't just want this for disability group meetings, but for every meeting of every group, because there's all people out there that could use it. And that's what we're hoping today, that you become our little minions that will go out there and show to other people that will show to other people.
Yeah, and I know that some people are here to gain knowledge for their organizations and for their own selves, and I'm appreciative of that because this is something that unfortunately a lot of organizations, a lot of individuals don't think about. You set up a meeting, the person, let's say, is blind, okay? I set up a meeting with a person who's blind. You see that thing over there? What thing over there? I can't see what you're showing me. You're going to have to describe it. You're going to have to talk about it. But people don't think about that. They don't think about that's not a common thing unless you work in that field. You don't know, hey, I need to maybe make my meetings a little like more accessible for people. Just thinking.
No, very true.
I mean, I think it's come to a point now where I have used it enough. I have played around with things enough to know that I'm not an expert. I'm not sitting here tonight telling you I'm an expert because that's the last thing I am. But I know what I am able to do. And in fact, since the last time we did this, because this is the second annual, in fact, we did it on the day last year. So I was trained as a peer advocate, and then I was training you all on Zoom accessibility a few hours later. See how that all works? So that's why we did it today, just to commemorate. So that's the reason why we did it today. So just a day of significance, and we'll probably do it next year too.
Now it all makes sense.
Now it all makes sense, right, Kathy?
Yeah, like, why do you have to pick this day? There's so many things going on.
I know, and now you know why Michelle's here.
Oh, thank you, Michelle. I learned a lot tonight.
Well, I hope you learned a lot because I was a little flustered in the beginning, but my apologies. But I definitely did it more justice than I thought. And if anybody has any other things after this that they'd like to hear about or like me to show them, contact me. I'm going to put my information in the chat so you can reach out to me. I'll put my email address, my adapt phone number and extension for those of you who have my personal
And can you
information.
say it out loud too for
Yes,
people?
I will.
Thanks.
My email address would be HEINB as in boy 40 at gmail.com. Phone number is 917 590 2944, extension 100. And again, this is all going out to everybody too, so in the chat. So you're very welcome, Anne. I'm very glad to have done it. But the information is now in the chat. This will all go out to everybody in probably the same email. If there's any other contact information in the chat, which I don't think there is, please do not share it. But if there isn't, please feel free to share it far and wide. There really isn't too much in here other than questions, so I wouldn't worry about it. Anybody have any other questions whatsoever? Anything at all?
Don't be shy.
You're welcome, Michelle. Thank you for coming.
I think everybody's saying thank you.
Yes.
Well,
Even
I
if I'm not-
appreciate it. I appreciate you all being here, and it was a good thing for us to do, and we're going to keep doing it as things expand, and as I learn many more things, and as Zoom decides to change the layout of the entire web page. You need to be trained again. So next year,
Also,
November 30th, 7 o'clock, same place, same time, same bat channel.
I don't know if everybody here is a downstate New York Adapt member, but I will put on my downstate hat. We have no dues, and we do mainly most of our meetings on Zoom. And also we do have some social fun things besides work things. We do a little bit of, we work hard and we party hard. So if you want to join us, it's at, was it dnyadapt.com.
Adapt.com.
Yeah.
We have a Medicaid CDPA working group. We have a voter engagement working group. We have an accessibility working group. We have a transportation working group. We have an employment working group. What else do we have?
We have an intersectionality working group that just went on like a hiatus because it's trying to figure out how to get more people to come.
Oh, and a legislative working
And we
group.
have a
I'm
legislative
bad.
working group that's going to be working really hard come January.
I'm bad.
They're getting ready now. And yeah, I mean, we have a lot. And if you ever want to start a working group, anybody out there, we are more than happy to have you start one. I know we'd like to start one on housing, but we just are like working to the max, the people we have as
Too many
co-coordinators.
groups.
If you want to join us and become a co-coordinator, we are happy to like show you the ropes and have you go out there and do it. And believe me, when I started this over 2 years ago, Marie made me the voter engagement working group, one of the first co-coordinators there. And I was like, I don't know anything much about voting except that I vote. And I've been learning, and Madeline came and helped me, and she showed me out in Long Island what's happening out there, and I'm New York City, and we could use some people from the lower New York State. So yeah, we're not just New York City and Long Island, we're also let me see, what are we again? We're Dutchess, Putnam, Orange, Rockland,
Ulster.
Ulster, and Sullivan, plus New York City, plus.
I'm not going to say what
Long
Nina
Island.
called
Did I
us.
miss one?
No, I don't
Okay.
think so. And obviously Nassau and Suffolk, which
Yeah,
if you said
that's
if you
right,
didn't
Long
say
Island. Okay.
yeah, that place.
And the 5 boroughs in New York.
And
Yeah.
let me tell you, I used to be the one of the only tech people. Now I'm not. So now she's stuck because she's all on her own.
Yeah, we have a good group of tech people, and we have and we even have people from out of state that joined downstate, and we're hoping to help them start up chapters in their locations too. So, hey, if you want to come on and help us out or get involved, we are here for you.
We don't
So,
bite, trust me.
Yeah, yeah.
Contrary
Let's
to
take
popular
everybody.
belief.
Yeah, so please come on.
Contrary to popular belief. And again, some of the and we have an accessibility. Did I say accessibility working group?
Yes, you did.
We have accessibility working group that meets the second Tuesday of every month at 10 o'clock. That may have to change because of something I learned today that I need approval from my director to come on meetings. So I may have to change that. We may have to change that time. I'm just thinking about that. So there's a few different little things that we may have to do. Transportation meets the third Friday of every month. That's a great group too. We're working on making it better. So please, if you'd like to join us, feel free, dnyadapt.com. Just go to the membership and fill out the membership form for either individual, or you can represent an organization too if you want. So
You don't have to be disabled. I mean, we just want, you're interested in this area and want to.
you can be differently abled if you wish.
Yes, thank you.
Disabled or differently abled, however you'd like to call it. You could also be perfectly able. Or think you are. Play it on TV.
Which everybody is here.
Are you sure about that, Kathy? Are you sure I'm
Yes.
perfectly able?
You are perfectly able.
I hope so. But anyway, everybody, thank you so much. It's been a great evening. Marilyn, I know your iPad is locked. I will call you after this. Because she can't even do anything with it. She texts me. Here I am.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could do it for all of you. Have a great night, everybody.
Okay.
Hey,
thank you.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank